Everybody, good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
Hope y'all have been enjoying the retreat thus far.
Definitely, yes, yes.
We made it. 2025 winter retreat. Had some obstacles, but we pulled through to come through another successful year as usual. We got big plans coming up for 2025. This year, as you noticed from the t-shirts, from the theme, and we're going to be taking a new approach to how we're focusing our goal setting, how we're focusing our strategic planning and the like. They're all going to be centered around a drive and focus. We still have our main mission. I'm about to put somebody on the spot who knows passing on his mission. Who feel like they know passing on his mission?
To bridge the gap between disadvantages and underrepresented.
Okay, you got elements of it.
I know it.
Passing on soul mission is
In
to
technology.
eliminate technical skill gaps experienced by youth and adults in underrepresented and disadvantaged communities.
No, he took it. No, I said that.
I told you had elements. Good stuff. So that's something I want everybody to commit to heart. So our mission is to close the technology skills gap for youth and adults from disadvantaged backgrounds and underrepresented communities.
Yeah.
Or you flip around. But anyway, so that mission is still our mission, right? But from year to year, we're going to have a different way of approaching that mission, right? Because we can approach that mission from multiple directions. Our goal this year is to approach that mission from this idea of activating potential. So we're going to activate potential. What does that mean? Empowering people, transforming communities. I found this cool quote. Let's think about this for a second. Believe in your infinite potential. Your only limitations are those you set upon yourself. That's true. I don't know who Roy Bennett is, but he was spitting. that's a good quote, right? But what does that really mean, right? Sorry, I'm doing your job. What does that mean, though? What does potential mean? So at your tables, first of all, you yourself, I want you to think about what that word potential means to you. Got some sticky notes here? Jot something down. There's also in the back of your of these really cool notebooks that I found on Amazon. These joints are fire. You can fold them all the way over and turn them into. And look, they got little expanding spines on them, so they expand to a 1-inch folder. These joints are fire.
So y'all need some school supplies. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, right. And they fold flat. All right, but in the back of those, there's some scratch paper if you want to take some notes. Oh, I'm gonna try to make this. We're gonna try to make this workshop as interactive as possible. Not gonna be doing a whole bunch. We're gonna be doing some talking, but it's gonna be a lot of you thinking, writing, sharing, because that's another focus too. We want to engage everybody. We're talking about activating potential, right? Right. So, what does that word potential mean to you? Yep. Write it down once you got something written down and you feel like you want to share it out. Somebody got one that they want to share? I can share.
Being open-minded.
Okay, potential being open-minded.
The capability and ability to accomplish tasks and or goals.
Okay.
Value.
Value, okay. Accomplish goals.
What I can achieve.
What you can achieve.
Ability to expand.
Ability to expand.
Basically, it's a capability to produce results.
Results. Producing results.
Kinetic power.
Kinetic power.
Potential is yet to be tapped.
something that's not tapped yet.
Yeah.
All right, let me get one more, and then I'm gonna show you the definite. You got one, TJ?
I was gonna say the unused abilities, capabilities, and resources within you.
Something that hasn't been used yet. Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, in physics is the stored energy.
Ooh, I like the
And an
fifth.
object that has yet to be released.
Stored energy, I like that.
Growth in yourself.
Growth in yourself, all awesome definitions. Keep those in your mind as we look at this one, definition I pulled. Go ahead, tap for me. Potential refers to the inherent capacity or possibility for something to develop, grow, or become a reality. So it hasn't been birthed into reality yet, but there's that stored energy, right? to be able to turn into reality. It suggests the presence of latent qualities or abilities that are not yet fully realized, but have the capacity to emerge or develop in the future. So potential is all about that something that's inside of something. Could be a person, could be an organization, could be an object, it doesn't matter, but it has some type of untapped energy, some type of untapped resource or growth potential in it that needs to be let out somehow. And what's waiting in order to really capitalize on potential, there needs to be some catalyst to release that stored energy, to spurn that growth, to make that thing that was inside come to the outside and come to fruition. Yeah, no.
To not be afraid.
To not be afraid, fear. So we're gonna start talking about some limiters to potential in a minute. But we're right now to truly tap into that potential, we need something to again access that thing that's inside that has caused growth. So some key aspects of potential. So from that definition and from some of the things that we shared, here's some things that we know about potential. Potential is about possibility. Potential implies that there's something that is possible, even if it hasn't yet happened yet or been demonstrated. So even though there might not be proof that this thing can happen or that person can do X, Y, or Z, there's a possibility that they can. So part of what we have to do as individuals and as an organization is when we look at situations, when we look at people, don't look at them just for face value. Because there could be something inside them, there could be something inside that situation that has the potential to activate and grow into something that they could have never imagined, that you could have never imagined, but they just need a catalyst. So we gotta kind of have that mindset that we don't just automatically write off something because of face value. There could be something there. It's up to us to be able to draw it out. Capacity suggests an inherent ability or capacity to do something or become something more. So again, let's talk about that possibility. This is my personal belief. I'm not gonna say this is the truth, but I think that everybody has the potential capacity to do great things. Back to that initial statement, that initial, the quote that we saw from Roy Bennett, who I gotta look up who he is, right? Right?
He's your next door neighbor.
Right.
Erica's looking at
There is this potential in people, potential in situations, potential in organizations, this capacity to grow even before we realize that there's something there. The next. Growth potential often implies that the possibility of growth, development, and improvement, kind of along the same thing we were just talking about. The next one for me. Unrealized. This is my favorite. Unrealized. Again, not looking at that thing for face value, but there could be something there as long as there's some way to draw it out. Here's some applications of that potential. Potential can be applied in a bunch of different ways. One, if we look at it from the aspect of looking for potential in people, then we're going to be looking for growth and realization of personal abilities, talents, and capacities. So again, when we're putting on that lens of looking beyond face value at people within our organization, the people that we serve, one of the things that we're going to be looking at is how can we help them grow? How can we help ourselves as team members grow? As a collective and as individuals, what can we do to tap into that growth potential from a personal perspective. Potential can also exist in ideas though. The capacity to develop something into to make it innovative and impactful. Sometimes the idea might not seem, somebody might give you an idea and you might write it off. You hear about stories about it all the time. This person had this idea and they went on Shark Tank. And Shark Tank was like, nah, I ain't investing in that. And then next thing you know, they blow up. I like it. It was a really good story that I heard. Is an artist I listened to. Her name is Lindsey Sterling. She plays violin and she's a ballerina. So she went on America's Got Talent, and they told her that she would. They was like, yeah, that's cute what you do, but you'll never sell out an arena in Vegas with this.
Okay.
And when I saw it, it was on an advertisement for her selling out an arena in Las Vegas, doing exactly what she did, because she didn't let somebody else's limited beliefs limit her big idea, right? So ideas can have potential too. Projects. We're big on projects. You know, that's how we work. Everything we do is pretty much a project. We're running anywhere between 5 to 15 projects at any given time. But projects have capacity to achieve goals and objectives. So we got to look at potential in projects, and then when we're approaching partners, to think about ways that we can partner on projects. That's something that you should have in the back of your mind too, because I've been in situations where we've been talking about, I might meet with somebody to talk about a potential partnership, and out the gate, maybe it doesn't seem like it's a good fit, but then I have to take my blinders off, I have to open up my ears, and I have to listen carefully to find that, my anime reference here, to find that leading thread. That's what Demon Slayer, y'all know about that. To find that thread, that single point of connection, because that single point of connection is the potential. Right, but if you shut yourself off from being open to that, you'll never find that, and then you'll lose out on that opportunity. And then lastly, organizationally, capacity to grow, innovate, and achieve on our mission. So that's why critical. Everybody has to know their mission, because how can we collectively tap into the potential of pass it on, tap into the potential of Jumpstart to Protect, tap into the potential for VetWorks, if we don't all even know what our mission is. Yes.
I found him.
What's he?
His name is Roy T. Bennett. He is a fellow author. He was on Amazon. His bio. Roy T. Bennett is a thought leader. He loves sharing positive thoughts and creative insight that have helped countless people to live a successful and fulfilling life. He realizes that he should spread these thoughts by writing and inspire you to believe in yourself, your abilities, and your own potential.
He found his potential, right? Because his potential in himself is to be an encourager.
Exactly.
So he was able to tap that potential and turn it into a career. So that's what I mean. Looks like we have to really focus in on that, because that untapped potential, tapping into that potential rather, is our keys to success.
Exactly. And he has hundreds of more quotes, even fantastic.
Nice.
Serious.
Dr. Sanders, this is our mission for everybody who don't know it. I stay ready.
Stay ready.
It's in the bag.
This is one in the bag.
It's in the bag.
So for this first activity, you notice that you should have a little journal on your table or by your book. Grab your little journals. These are going to be your buddies for the next year, for 2025. We're going to be doing a couple activities in this. First activity, though, is we're going to be talking about, we're going to be journaling our potential for growth. Tap that for me. All right, in your journals, you're going to record 3 examples of potential you personally have and what your strategy will be to tap into that potential. Here's some examples. I have untapped leadership potential. I will volunteer to take lead roles on more projects so that I can further develop my leadership qualities. Here's another example. I have untapped potential to become a more resilient person. So some of these could be like outwardly facing potential. Some of these things can be like something inside, like, you know, resiliency, grit, perseverance, things like that. I have untapped potential to become a more resilient person. I will develop my resilience by sharing my difficulties with trusted advisors and focusing on solutions rather than problems. So, all right, first activity in your journal. Think about it. record 3 examples of potential you personally have and what your strategies will be to tap into that potential.
Slide past you real quick.
Record that one in a journal. Record these in y'all journals. About 3 more minutes. All right. Anybody got a good one they feel like sharing?
I'll share.
And then Ashley, that's good.
Okay, so I have untapped self-promoting potential. I will connect with my publishers and who's who at Marquise Promoters to increase my self-promoting skills for my books. I'm no good at promoting myself.
All right, awesome.
I was gonna say, be more action driven, like when I get an idea, just act on it. Don't wait around and do it.
Mm-hmm. That's a big one. Don't sit on those big ideas, because then you're gonna be mad somebody else come out with it. You got one, Reg?
Yeah, so one of my tactical abilities would be to be objective, and that skill can sharpen other people's skills to be objective.
Okay.
She brings it on with.
I have to improve on my communication. In order for me to improve on my communication, I have to read books that's going to be more in layman term communication. I always seem to communicate with people as though in technical terms more like a machine, but I'm going to read more to learn how to speak more into more layman terms to have people understand what I'm saying.
A good activity for that, I actually saw like a video about this. There were, I think it was some engineers from Google, and they were explaining quantum computing. And so it's like, explain quantum computing to a PhD student. But then the next video was like, explain quantum computing to a bachelor's, somebody, undergrad. Yeah. Then it was like, explain quantum computing to a high school student, a middle school, all the way down to an elementary school kid. So that's a good kind of practice activity. Explain your concept and see if you can explain it to a kindergarten,
right,
in a way that they can understand it. Because once you can do that, they attribute a quote, is a quote, an Einstein quote, that they attribute to him, but I don't know if he said it for real. But you probably heard me say it before, or at least paraphrase it. If you can't explain what you know to even to someone else, then you don't really know it.
Exactly.
If you can't explain something that you know in terms that anybody can understand it, then you don't really understand that concept. So that's a good way to actually not only improve communication, but also is a good way to reinforce your knowledge. If one more, one time, one more. All right. Let's move to the next one. Continue work on those. Like the reason I'm having y'all write these in your journals, we're gonna be referencing these throughout the year. Hopefully you'll be adding things. Well, we're gonna have an activity later where you're gonna do some SMART goals for yourself. And this is gonna be that reminder to you. This should be something you're looking at on a regular basis. Keep it in the forefront of your mind. Keep those 3 things that you are planning to do to tap into your potential. Keep that at the forefront of your mind, right? Refine them, maybe even put them on a little poster, somewhere that's in your, some people put them on there, put like those type of things on their mirrors in the bathroom, but something that where it's gonna be in your line of sight on a regular basis to keep it at the forefront of your mind. All right, but as for us as an organization, activate our potential for 2025, as I mentioned before, our drive and focus for this year is to activate potential for the reasons of empowering people and transforming communities. Having this drive and focus is going to help us to achieve not only some of our broader mission, but this even more focused mission that we have for the year within this 12-month time frame. It's also going to help us to create a story, right? Because as we start to develop our strategic plan, which we're going to be working on like after lunch, That whole time period, we're gonna be collectively working together, because this is a team effort now. That's one of the things that I'm focusing on this year as a leader, to tap into our collective potential, is not being a bottleneck, right? We're a team, right? We're a team. It's not Dr. Sanders and the Pips.
The Pips.
Each of you is as an individual got us to where we are today. Give yourself a round of applause. But with this focus, is going to help us to build a story throughout the year of how we're doing these things, empowering people, transforming communities, and it's giving us more of a laser focus. Because our mission is big, and you learn, if you ever do formal research, you'll learn that when you're doing formal research, you start with this big problem you're trying to solve, but you're not going to be able to solve that problem. So what you have to do is you have to narrow your focus down to a problem that is small enough for you to actually research and solve. And by doing this is going to give us that focus that we need to actually add a brick to the wall to actually knock out part of that mission brick by brick by brick. And then every year moving forward, we're knocking out, or in our case, in research, we build a wall. In our case, we're knocking the wall down, brick by brick. And this will help us tell that story of, look what we knocked out this year. Look at how we reduced the skills gap this year based on our laser focus. Activate potential means recognizing and unlocking the capabilities, talents, and resources within individuals, teams, and the organization that have yet to be fully utilized and realized. It involves fostering growth, inspiring action, and removing barriers that hinder progress, enabling people or the organization to achieve their highest level of performance and impact. Here's some practical applications for that. In order to get to that definition that we were looking at, in order to achieve those things that I just read about, we got a couple of ways that we're going to actually practically implement it. First, empowering you all as individuals. What does that look like? We're going to identify people's strengths and untapped skills around those, right? Everybody here has strengths, right? We talked about a second ago, we just talked about, things that you want to draw out, but there's things that you already have in the forefront. There's strengths that you have as an individual that might be going underutilized, that if you utilize them in the context of passing on, it could take us to the next level. Right. So we definitely need people being willing to share those strengths and abilities so that we can tap into them. Our job, my job as a leader, for those who aren't aware also, Dr. CBJ, where'd she go? Is taking on a leadership role as our operations director, and Mr. Sean Kidd here, Professor Sean Kidd here, is taking on a leadership role also as Pastor No's chief of staff. So I'm now sharing that responsibility, some of those executive director responsibilities amongst the three of us. But as a leadership team, we have to be able to provide tools, resources, and support in order to help you tap into those untapped skills. Also, we're going to encourage confidence, motivation, and a growth mindset to inspire that action. I hope that we're doing that, but we're going to put even more conscious effort this year into creating an environment where it's cool for you to put forth an idea that you might not be totally cool, aware that people are going to accept, right. Because you're in a supportive environment where people, even if the idea might not click for them right away, they're not going to put you down about it, right? So at your table, here's what I want you to do. After you give it some thought, share an example of what this might look like in your day-to-day. What might this empowerment of individuals, and if you're not thinking about it from a lens of like empowering folks within passing on, because we all have leadership opportunities in whatever we do. You might be leading an organization. You might be leading within a program or a project. You might be leading individuals in a classroom environment. So at some point, you're taking on a leadership role, all right? So how do you see your role as a leader empowering people? How do you see that playing out in a day-to-day basis? get out some thought, and then once you come up with something, if you're willing to share it out.
So why don't y'all talk about it?
Oh, you share it out amongst your table. So once you, so it's kind of like a think first. And I'm about to say.
So I was on my thing for like more leadership roles, so I was thinking, because we get team members on my level job. Because I've been experienced, I need to take it all to training and so I don't actually do my because the training doesn't really help teach it though. It's like one-on-one, it has to be 90%. I'm a visual person, so sometimes I can't really explain it that way. I know it, but actually, especially when they don't look at it, I have to show them as I get to this page or that app or whatever. So I think that I do everything. I thought when she was talking to somebody else, like, but I'm going to do it. So I think
So like you see in your day-to-day, being able to do that, kind of take on that leadership role by being the person to show them like the hands-on, like not just the high-level stuff that your onboarding process with HR might talk about, but that in the weeds.
yeah, I don't do any of that HR stuff. I don't contact. So I'm showing them, I know better. As a person, so they can tell the applications that we get and stop space.
He says, no, Mr. He said, you would have at all. He said, this me. He said, I am gentle. He said, I am gentle. He said, I have not been a gentleman to you. He said,
Yeah, so me just did help a little bit with that because you know some of the laws and stuff we can't put too much, but I mean you look at it
but what I missed was some and when I went back to look over conversations, things that God gave me conversations with my wife without they're speaking in French, but I don't speak French. So I knew she was angry with him because she said, d'accord. Means I'm sorry. And so I knew these things happening. And I missed that something was affecting his job, affecting his job.
Harboring the knowledge for strength
plays for my job.
That's hard for them. Very difficult. So I had
really organized. If you are able to
because they get formulate, synthesize that was my task.
feels heard.
Even those I think this is something
so if I do that,
I didn't think I would change that
too much, but
I would have my sheet asked, and I didn't really know that until I started playing with it. And it is kind of easy, of course, they're new to it, they don't like to like
yes,
I just don't feel better at it. I just put myself out there because I'm just always behind the scenes. I do it. Yes.
So, yeah, so.
Yes, I do. Just always says that me and him are like similar. But he's like, he's like, come on this, he's like, I'll take
this is Elvin.
Yes.
But when you look at this, a lot of times have conversations with just having a regular conversation. And that's you say contract is okay. In my mind, it's contract. If I have a contract, I have a contract. You look at this world. So that's stuff you think is good. That's how you he's thought leader. Hey, what do you think about this? Hey, Sean, that makes a good idea. Oh, yeah, it's a good idea. Vice versa. So,
the more you hear with the
You gotta get rid of
problem, and like her,
stuff
and
because you be surprised.
I'm some, you know, her personal, so, and then some of us think that I got some into it that way, and it's better for them.
Then that's the other part about it, right? People say credit teachers, even, you can explain concepts right? They love cartoons. They love cartoons. You give them too much words, they melt. You give them like, if you give this short of the Papa magazine, the characters, how do we cartoons? So that's one thing. Too many big words, especially my phone, too many big words is just right. So if you give them short, choppy words, you know, yeah. So that's why I look at it. Understanding introverts, yeah. It's like,
It wasn't your fault.
you guys have that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's always been a second too.
He said it was on my mind.
Because I want to make it speak, so you speaking. There's some kind of intimidation in the market too, because you get how do I frame this problem, frame this comment, I almost like this, you know. And sometimes your mind is going 1,000 miles per second, you know, it becomes such an application.
And then it's like, if there's someone that's like older than me, so I'm just thinking, like, you look, I'm like, I'm like, okay. But, I don't know, once I start getting such a wage, it's better. Sometimes I'm looking at that, they're not, like, well, they looking
It's something that so do you when they go into you ever seen the movies they start operating, they sit down and they look around, they observe the ground. You're definitely touching on because these are bugs and your science. I've learned to survive what's going to environment. Yeah, you can read it. That's the best to sit back and just don't say out loud and just observe if it's on a Zoom call. So they realize that you know when you get and the guy
Yeah, I want you to connect in with Benny. That's all. The attorney.
There's some good conversations going on. Hopefully.
So what we doing? You first.
All right, one more minute, and then we'll move on to the next practical application. There's also some drinks in the back they just brought in too.
Be assistant. So it's part of your team.
Yeah, some drinks and snacks.
Yes. Virtual system, yes. And these VMs, these are
when Will was talking about the first one. This is the first one. He changed the thing. Will, the first one.
No, because we have but I don't feel that. And y'all know, this time,
Yeah.
the very same thing, we had different, this is what I said. I couldn't even.
Some people know what things are at, some things don't know where it's at. Sure.
And I couldn't think of what to. Exactly.
Basically, I said the same thing, but different. I said, trust.
Okay, that was your fault.
All right, y'all, let's move. I hear good conversations, but we gotta keep it moving. We got a lot to get through today. Let's take a look at our.
Hey. Hey.
All right, let's take a look at our second practical application. Encourage collaborations. So one way that we can help ourselves, help other individuals tap into our potential is by partnering, right?
Yeah.
Find out ways that you can work to support other people's ideas, initiatives, and then vice versa. Because teamwork makes the dream work, right? So leverage diverse talents, perspectives, and expertise to create synergy. Contribute to a culture where people feel valued and motivated to give their best, right? And then create opportunities for mutual learning and support among team members and or students. So here, we're gonna think for a second, think about ways that you could actually implement this, and then once you feel like you got a good idea, let's hear it. All right? So we're talking about encouraging those collaborations.
So we did that.
Did you already have one?
No, we don't have it yet.
All right. Diverse talents, perspectives, expertise, trying to find some synergies. I have one. I got one I can share, right? So we've been Achilles been leading this awesome effort with the new cyber interns. Thank you, sir. Putting them to work on social media projects.
Yeah.
And they did interviews with a group of people, and he was giving me an update on it. And I got a chance to look at some of their portfolios too. And one person was like really, like you call them social butterfly, but this other person was really technical. That's a collaboration right there.
Absolutely.
You got the talent, you got the person with the technical expertise to bring that talent to life. Put them together, that's synergy. So think about different ways that you could be involved in an activity like that where you know you have this strength, this untapped potential, but maybe there's something limiting you from tapping into it, but this person over here has that missing ingredient that you need in order to make your idea come to life or vice versa. And then that's how you find that thread to bring this thing to life and actually tap into that potential for both of you. Got some of that?
On that note, asking the people that you come in contact with, especially that are coming in to pass along, what their background is. And don't stop with the first answer they give you, because a lot of times they're shy. We ended up finding out we had a commander in our mix, his officer in the military reserves, and a PhD student. PhD, not student, professor.
Right.
And I immediately gave her a leadership position, and she just took over and started running it, right? Making my job a heck of a lot easier, and also encouraging collaboration amongst the other cohort members. Right? If I didn't dig and ask her that, she wasn't going to volunteer.
And that's part of that creating opportunities, mutual learning and support. Start as simple as talking to people, right?
Yeah, there it is. And that's
All right, so give that some thought. Think about some other ways that what this might look like in practice. This encouraging collabs. You got one?
Oh, we're talking about concert.
We're gonna share this one out. We're gonna share this one out once you feel like you got one.
I want to share this one out because this is a real live thing. Remember we had our year service people, and we started out with 7, and most of us know the story how it dwindled down. But I want to talk about Ashley.
Yeah.
We saw something in her.
That's love.
She wasn't letting us. She was kind of hesitant.
She was a shy one.
And she was a shy one, but she was always willing to, Doc Sanders would give something and she'd be the first one to jump on it. When the big move into 7 East Baltimore, Ashley came up with the plans,
Yes.
and Doc Sanders looked it over, and he implemented it, and the two of them, and she took that project and ran with it.
Absolutely.
But she showed us so much, that I was bugging Doc Sanders. She didn't know it, but I was bugging Doc Sanders. I went to Darlene and Nidra and them, and I was bugging Doc Sanders. I said, we gotta keep her. We gotta bring her on. I need her. She's gonna complete me. And she's now part of our admin team.
And for those who didn't know, Ashley is passing on's first ever executive apprentice. So
Yes.
she's my apprentice.
Yes, she is. But that was one of those, encouraging collabs. We saw so much in her, and she just showed us these things, but very, real shy about it, but she got in there and we were able to like, come on, you can do this, and
Ain't no stopping us now.
that's the theme song.
That's it.
Yeah. But I am gonna go Lakeside with us this year because we all the way live in 2025.
All right now, I hear you.
We got one or two more we want to share before we go on to our third practical application. All right, let's keep moving now. All right, third practical application. Unlock capabilities. So we're gonna set SMART goals. Everybody knows what SMART is? So I'm here. What's SMART?
Smart.
Is specific, measurable, attainable. What's R? Relevant. Or something I think they use that one interchangeably. Relevant or realistic. And then T is time bound. Right. All right. So set SMART goals to guide your development. So individually, you're going to do some now, but collectively during the strategic planning after lunch, we're going to be doing that as a group. Enroll in courses, workshops, or online learning platforms to acquire new skills that complement your strengths. So when you're looking at drawing out that potential that you have in yourself, drawing out that potential that other individuals have, part of that is going to be learning. You might have that potential, but what's the missing ingredient is maybe some additional knowledge, some additional expertise. Like, for example, I'll share with you one of my potentials. I said, I have the potential to lead a large nonprofit, over $5 million budget, over 50 full-time employees. I'll tap into this by increasing my formal knowledge of nonprofit leadership through studying and mentorship. So one of the things I know I have to have on my radar if I want to be a leader at that level is I gotta learn how to run a bigger organization. All right, so think about that. Think about the classes that you could be taking, the workshops that you could be sitting in on. Finding mentors that can help give you kind of that behind the curtain, behind the scenes look at what the real is in order to reach the goals that you're trying to reach to. Because that might be the thing that you need to unlock your potential. And then dedicate time to practicing your skills and experimenting with new methods to refine your abilities. And I like that experimenting one the most, right? Because a lot of times we think that we got to be good at it before we start doing it, but most of the times you try to learn how to cook, right? You gotta get in the kitchen and practice, and your first couple dishes are gonna be trash. But eventually you're gonna learn how to cook. So let that woman cook.
Start off with grits and burn them.
All right, so tap that one.
Dr. Sanders,
Yes.
is it recording?
Yes, we'll go. All right, so our second journal entry, SMART goals. I keep coming over this. Sean got that.
Right.
Set at least one SMART goal for each of these 7 types of SMART goals. For those who were here last year, when we did a workshop, we talked about SMART goals from a holistic perspective. But one of the parts that I like the most at the end of that presentation, we'll probably do this as a workshop sometime next year for the community. But one of the things that I found in doing some research on this topic is that your goals are going to be, you're not just going to set goals for like career stuff, because sometimes people limit their goals to just career, but you should be setting goals for every aspect of your life. So I want you to set goal, a goal, at least one goal, SMART goal for each one of these 7 areas. Spiritual, family, intellectual, health and wellness, financial, career, and social. Yes?
How many goals should you have? Like I have like 50 goals per year.
So that's a good question. 50 is too many. So when you think goals should be higher level, because once you get to like 50, you're thinking procedures.
Exactly.
So what you want to do is look at those goals and see how you can consolidate several of those goals into one bigger overarching goal. And then those other little ones, those are milestones towards that bigger goal. That makes sense? All right, so again, keep that in mind as you're setting these. They should be something big enough, a big enough idea or big enough goal that you can break it down into steps, into milestones. Here are time bounding for these though, because again, you can have goals at different intervals. Like you should have like lifelong goals, 10-year goals, right? These are 1-year goals. So kind of use that 12-month, that 1-year time bounding to frame these particular goals. So maybe you already got a lifetime goal in your mind for health and wellness. Like ultimately, this is my health and wellness goal. What can you achieve this year to get there? What can you achieve this year to get to your family goal, or your social goal, or your career goal? Be specific, be measurable, percentages, dollar amounts, whatever. I forget my A. Attainable, be something that you can do in a year, realistically. Realistically.
Achievable, attainable, achievable.
Yep, achievable. And then we already know our time bound.
Right.
And then how does it relate to your relevant? How is it relevant to your larger goal? Let's give it 3 more minutes. wrapping those goals up, let's take a look at our fourth practical application. Excuse me. Remove barriers. All right, so a lot of times the thing that's stopping us from tapping into that potential are these barriers, either mental or maybe even tangible barriers that are blocking us from getting to where we need to go to. So we need to recognize and challenge those negative beliefs that might be holding us back from reaching our full potentials. I'm too old. I don't have the right education. I don't got enough money to get this off the ground. All these different things that you had this really good idea, but now stuff starts creeping in to tell you no, it ain't gonna work. Get rid of that stuff. Start addressing it, challenging it, seeing how you can overcome instead of succumb. Maintain a healthy work-life balance. Get enough sleep, and that's for me. And prioritize your well-being to avoid burnout. And then learn coping mechanisms to manage stress effectively and overcome challenges. Anybody got an example of how they might implement these personal barrier removals?
The guy right there with a sledgehammer start beating the ball.
I was on, you know they have like
the scratch
gyms,
room, yeah.
the destruction rooms where you just go in and break stuff. Rage rooms, that's what they call it.
Yeah, my stress at our job, we have a lot of students who are autistic. Well, we have an entire autistic department in Wing now. And we constantly buy them these stress balls because they have, they can't think without releasing their stress. So we have these different fidgets, whatever you need. And after a while, you'll see the teachers having them. They sit there checking papers and you know, what works for the autistic kids. Next thing you know, the teachers are spinning the fidget.
What's that one you just said about the stress ball? Oh, the one you.
Yeah, fidget toy.
Oh, the stress ball. I had found one that said co-workers are like Christmas lights. They all hang together. Some of them work sometimes. The others, some of them do all the work. Some of them don't work, but they all shine together.
Okay.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You got one?
I would say journaling.
Okay, journaling.
Because I have a lot of thoughts every single day. So like finding a way to I use OneNote on Microsoft. I have like a section where I just every day I know.
I'm talking to mine.
Yeah.
I'm talking to mine.
So you take an audio journal?
Yeah.
Somebody else have a way that they can remove those barriers personally? Go away in the time.
Sometimes this internal dialogue really removes self-limiting beliefs. So if you catch yourself saying something in your head, use a trigger word to pull yourself out of that.
Absolutely.
Because I want to say have a creative outlet. So I mean, I play music or like actually play an instrument or draw, paint or something like that.
Creative outlets.
Creative outlets.
Pray. Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Every day, first thing.
I would say maybe exercising or just stressing in general.
Yeah.
That helps me when I study. I study to have my roommate quiz me while I'm doing like burpees or something.
They've done like studies that said that exercise releases a chemical that helps dopamine, stress release. Got one, Aaron?
Yeah, I have one.
Great.
Let's say there's a situation where I'm trying to problem solve and I try to use like everything internal. But what I would do to remove that barrier is look for an outside source or an alternative solution to something, so that way I'm always not, keeping myself on this one thing.
Yeah, thinking outside the box, right? Because sometimes if you keep trying that same thing over, that actually, you're like, oh, this is the only way I can approach this problem. So now, because you couldn't overcome it with that one solution, you feel like you can't overcome it. But if you approach it from a different angle, you get it solved just like that.
Yeah, external source could be another person.
Right. Yeah, right. Like sometimes, and this is like tech. Our tech. If you're a techie, you know this, right? You run into a tech issue that you can't solve like in 30 minutes or something. What first thing you do?
escalation.
Google.
Do you Google it? Why? Because all those millions of people online might have found a solution already, right? And sometimes hearing somebody else has overcome that obstacle makes it easier. That's like everybody. Y'all heard the story of the 4-minute mile, right? So like back in that early 1900s, it was a medical belief that a human could not run a mile in under 4 minutes. Like if you did it, you would straight up die. Until this dude did it in the Olympics.
Yep.
He was the very first person to run a mile in under 4 minutes. And then the very next year, like 4 other people did it. So because that one person became the baseline, to prove that limiting belief was false, it enabled other people to be able to do it. So sometimes it might just be observing or talking. I was just talking, so on the way up here, we were talking about mushroom coffee. So I see these ads all the time about mushroom coffee and the health benefits. Yeah, so it's coffee made out of mushrooms, all these health benefits, right? But I was like skeptical, like I don't know. I think I want to try, but I don't know. They say you got all these benefits, but I don't know. But then Aaron was like, oh yeah, I do mushroom coffee. It's got these health benefits, so now I'm about to go get some mushroom coffee. Why? Because Aaron removed my limited belief that it wasn't going to work.
What kind of mushrooms? I had to ask that question. You feel all kind of cosmic. I gotta ask the question.
It's not sure.
All right.
Not those mushrooms. All right.
Not those, right?
All right, one more, last one before we take a little 5-minute break and then get ready for our next presenter. Last practical application, resource optimization. Learn time management techniques to prioritize tasks and create time for personal development and activities. A lot of times, one of those barriers is, I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to study for this next thing. I don't have time to go to that workshop. But then I sit around and I watch like anime for like 5 hours.
So that's called procrastination, though.
I don't got time to work out, but I got like 4 hours to binge watch Forensic Files. So
That's called procrastination.
right. So learning those techniques to actually make these things that are going to help you tap that potential into your potential a priority is going to help, but that has to be a conscious effort. Connect with mentors, colleagues, and experts who can offer guidance and support your growth. Again, you saw in one of my 3 ways tapping the potential. Find somebody who's done this before,
Exactly.
who can help guide you. You need in every hero's journey. There's always a central figure. You know, of course, you got your protagonist, your person, the hero. But the hero always early in their journey they encounter a sage. The sage is this person with the wisdom to help get the hero ready to attack whatever big feat that they're going to attack to actually achieve their potential. You need to find that sage. Luke had Obi-Wan Kenobi. Somebody give me, who else?
Naruto had it.
Naruto. Bilbo and Frodo had Gandalf, right? So you see it in all these different stories, right?
Spider-Man had his uncle.
Oh, Spider-Man's uncle, right? Changed his life with that one statement.
One statement.
All right.
Great power. Great
So find that sage.
That's right.
And the last one here, identify and leverage existing resources like libraries, online tools, professional networks to help you out with the resource optimization. We kind of, let's give some examples real quick, and then we'll wrap, share some examples of what that might look like, resource optimization might look like on a day-to-day.
I'm talking about Snap. Snap was confusing to me. Okay.
Yeah.
Hollyette.
Network team.
Yes, and Paula. Thank y'all.
Yeah. So we quickly was like,
Thank
we don't know what the hell we're doing. Let's find some sages. Let's find some sages. And get some wisdom.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all. I think we not perfect, but we almost there. Putting stuff in work, y'all. Hey. Teresa, let me not leave her out.
Right.
Teresa Platt Blackwell.
Oh, yeah.
She came in on that last meeting, we quizzed Marina, and look, she was recording her. I said, that was smart, she
Yes.
recorded her.
Exactly.
And we went in, and Doc Sanders, and thank you, Erica, and everybody else that came in on the team, but by George, I think we got it.
Somebody else had one, a resource optimization tip?
One of my greatest resources, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're the Derek.
Okay, one of my greatest resource optimizations have been throughout my 37 years of teaching, my students. I am still always baffled and amazed at how much young children really do understand. We underestimate them to the fullest, that they can understand adult problems. And because they don't see them as adults see them, they see them like kids. It's a game, it's a puzzle. So I would, whenever I've had times where I've just been perplexed, and my student will see, what's going on, what's wrong with you, Miss Platt, Adam Sean, whatever name they know me by, and what's going on, and I'll say, okay, and I'm very honest with them. This is what I'm supposed to do this, such. And they're like, oh, why don't you just do this, Miss Platt, why don't you just, wait a minute, don't talk so fast. And that has happened so many times. So it not only they because they're not pressured, they don't have the stress of having to achieve the goal I'm trying to achieve, so it's less stressful for them. So they just think of it like children.
And I like that you brought that up, because that sage doesn't have to be the old wise man.
Right.
That wisdom could come from
Sure can.
unsuspecting places.
Exactly.
Yeah, Derek and Tom.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, Erica stole some of my thunder because I was going to talk about the kids. Because see, honestly, in that same manner, I like to add having somebody hold you accountable, have an accountability partner. Something that we went through with our marriage ministry when we had First Baptist. We had an accountability partner, and I use my students to hold me accountable for those things that I discuss with them. Because, like you said, they will see that on you.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have that open and honest discussion, it also helps them to grow at the same time.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Accountability partners, crucial.
Yes.
Say the belly right. So, but a while back, I didn't have a belly. I had a belly, but I lost it. And I've done a couple of different weight loss programs, but the only one that really worked was Weight Watchers, because they had meetings.
Yes.
And we would go to the meetings, and I had to go be weighed on the scale at the meeting, and I legit be like, oh, y'all got meeting on it. Because I knew the person was like, what's going on with So finding that person to hold you accountable.
Absolutely.
And actually, when you make these goals, the reason people fail with their New Year's resolutions is because half the time they don't tell other people about it, so they could quietly quit.
Yeah.
So you gotta make it so you can't quietly. The best way to make it so you can't quietly quit is to find somebody to share that with, who you know and trust enough to be like, what you doing?
Right.
What you doing, Aisha?
Okay.
You said you were going to page 3 of your journal said
Oh, you got to the page, to the line.
So as a collective, I feel as Pedo family, we could be accountability partners for each other, right? Hold each other accountable for reaching those goals that we want to reach. Tom?
Yeah, just kind of piggybacking to what Ms. Banks said about, having, young people, sort of be that sage, or, seeing it from a different perspective. That goes even to the animal kingdom. A lot of, we look at wolves and even sort of those predatory animals, wolves and lions and things like that. They learn those hunting instincts through play.
Yes.
Right? Because they're not looking at it from that aspect of survival at first. They're looking at it, I'm just having a good time, I'm just playing around and all of that stuff. And then they develop that, coordination and all. Yeah. Well, they have that in them already.
That's their untapped potential.
Right, exactly. They have the claws and teeth already. But now they're learning the coordination, they're learning the team tactics and all of those things by just playing around. And that's another thing, I don't knock, you know, people always talk about, you know, oh, white kids playing video games and rock their brain and da. We actually, you know, it's one thing that we, you know, one of the classes that we teach, the Game Changers Club, we kind of dispel that myth. You know, kids are getting college scholarships because of video games. Because they learn how to play video, they're learning team coordination, team tactics, and all of that thing, being able to work in a team together so that when they go into the workforce, they already have that soft skill developed, right? And then hand-eye coordination and all of these other
leadership
things.
capabilities. Because when you're on Call of Duty, somebody running point, somebody's like, hey yo, you gonna go that way, you go that way, getting a sniper nest right there.
You know, so it's, you know, when they talk about those problem-solving skills that you were saying, they look at it from a different perspective because they may even look at it as a video game. It's like, oh, here, okay. The problem that you're dealing with in real life is like, oh, that's like, okay, well, that reminds me of like when Mario did this, and you know, to warp level 2 and to get to this flag and castle to take out Koopa. You know, right? That's how they're looking at it.
They are.
Right?
They really do.
So I thought that was a good point.
One thing I'm gonna draw with from what you said too, Tom, that kind of ties back into the barrier moving one. Experimentation, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Experimentation. That learning through play allows you to experiment in this kind of safe environment where it's okay to fail because survival ain't on the line.
Right.
And that makes you think differently.
They really do.
All right. So, a lot of y'all people know the story about me helping my nephew get his money back from AliExpress. So, my nephew thought he couldn't get his money back. So, because of the knowledge I had to say, I'm gonna teach my nephew something. So, I used everything that I knew in my frame of reference, and to get his money back, I said, no, this is what I want you to do. I want you to get that camera. We're gonna record this to show them that the device doesn't work in the system. So we did that, and then after I helped him get his money back, I said, I'm a nephew, I'm gonna show you something. Let's go to YouTube. I'm gonna show you this person to how to tackle a situation like that when it comes to AliExpress. So I had my nephew watch YouTube, and he learned something. But then, after that happened, now I see my nephew go to YouTube to, you know, see how to fix all his problems now.
You introduced him to resource optimization, right?
Yeah.
Online tools, online resources. So that same skill set you help. You basically coach him through it and show him the resources that he can use to further solve his problems.
There you go.
All right. So hopefully, that's it. When you get exit that. So hopefully, we all have a kind of clear picture of how we as individuals are going to be activating potential, how we as a collective are going to be activating potential in 2025. Finish out your SMART goals if you haven't got them done yet. Those 3 things, those 3 untapped potentials that you're going to be focused on this year too. And then as we get into how we're going to do this strategically as an organization in the afternoon, keep this kind of framework in the back of your mind. All right. First one done.